What's good, team? It's your boy MurderInc here, back with another Barbarian build. We have a boss killer that can also clear Nightmare 100 and Vault 101s effectively. So this is going to be a huge build, the last Hammer the Ancients build that I'm going to make for this season, probably. Let's get it. Alright guys, as mentioned, this is a Hammer the Ancients boss killer guide, but not your typical boss killer. So while you may be walking around in game, seeing people create bosses for, I don't know, 500 million, 600 million, probably at the top end with uber uniques, the problem is nothing in the game has that much health. So what did I do? I took the typical boss killer build from the previous seasons and made a few alterations to it so it can effectively clear Nightmare Dungeon 100s as well as Vault 100s better than normal boss killer builds. They usually have to swap quite a few talents around, and it's pretty annoying. Players don't really like swapping talents per content, so that's kind of where this build comes in. So the first thing I want to do is I can show you killing a boss, obviously, and there's nothing that special about that. What I really want to show you is the Nightmare Vaults. I don't have a 100 at the moment, but I do have a 98. It's the best I could do with the dust. So let me just go ahead and show you what I'm rocking with here. And as far as an elixir, I don't need more damage. We'll just go with life, right? We'll throw on life here. I am close to the defense soft cap, which is, I believe, 13,400 defense. It doesn't scale right now, but I do have the Juggernauts, which as soon as I go into combat, which you will see right now, that it's going to go pretty close to the armor cap, which is all you really need. Some players even go without armor. It's a personal preference. I don't recommend it unless you're like a veteran player to not run the armor cap. It only blocks normal hits, and a lot of the damage in the Nightmare Vaults at least are going to be elemental. So of course we have resistances capped across the board here. As you can see, 12.7 armor. I'm a bit away, right? So 13.4 should be 100% or around there. It's not a huge deal. You just pretty much need the Juggernauts as a high roll as you can get. Obviously, I have the max roll here. And once you have that, everything is good. I'm not running Ring of the Red Fear, but I will talk about that later. For now, let me just show you the 98 gameplay. So before it gets interesting, it's just going to be a typical build. We hit things very hard because, again, this is a bossing build. And it's going to be slower, right? I did make a build already for Hammer the Ancients, which is going to be significantly faster in Vaults. This build cannot compete at all. However, this build it can one-shot bosses, which you will see, I don't know, once I start using my cooldowns on big packs, you're going to see, I mean, yes, those are overpower hits, but once I start doing 100 million plus in AoEs, I mean, there we just saw, I don't know, 14 with a damage reduction mob. So this build, as you can see, is it's fun to play a bossing build in an AoE format, even though it is a little bit slow. So here we are making our way through, about to enter some solid chunky hits there. This is why we play Hammer the Ancients, right? We like the big hits. All right, so guys, I'm going to show you a run here. As we see, I went 50, I clicked on 60 stacks because Barbarians are barbarians, right? TLDR, you're going to see massive overpower explosions here. And this is going to be, I'm showing this because it's the worst place for the build, right? This is going to be the weakest aspect of the build. So if this doesn't look impressive to you, it's not supposed to. This is going to be the worst aspect of this build, which is going to be the vault clearing, because it is a boss killer. A lot of people spam boss runs and they don't like going back and forth, or they don't want to get carried, or they just play alone, right? So if you're playing alone, this is probably an opportune build here, and you can min-max it further to make this part more efficient, because I definitely don't need to be hitting as far as I'm hitting, because, I mean, overkill is overkill, right? The less damage I take from Hammer the Ancients, the more I can put into charge. And charge still does damage here, enough to kill on overpower procs. Again, AoEing for 34 plus million, you're going to see 80 millions, 100 millions in AoE here. It's more than you need. That's the TLDR. So we're going to continue flying through here. So that charge damage that you just saw on that last pack is a prime example as to why I kind of led more into the charge side instead of the Hammer of the Ancients, because having that extra ability, first of all, it's extremely mobile, right? We're kind of just zooming through. There was a solid 93 million crit. There was a nice 80 million. So, I mean, the build pumps. And on the second point, the only really things to watch for in this build is when you use your shouts, you want to make sure there are enough enemies around where you get benefit from the bold chieftain aspect. That's all you need to know, right? Everything else is extremely self-explanatory here. You pretty much just press your skills as you see fit and win. And one other thing to keep in mind is we are running Martial with this build as well. So ideally, you want to use charge before your shouts, the opposite of what I just did on the screen there, because it will fully reset the charge cooldown, giving you another application of applying Berserking, giving you Unstoppable, which of course with Tybalt's is massive quality of life. And there you have it. We have a tier 98 vault, cleaned and complete. I did die once, but it happens. So we go here for the nice dopamine explosion with my... Okay, so we have 23 Zoltan's warding left. Yeah. Again, you probably shouldn't click on it 60 times, but Barbarians do Barbarian things, and I don't see myself running out of pearls anytime soon. Now that I showed you the worst part of the build, you kind of know what you're signing up for when you do play this kind of iconic build here. Let's get rid of that blue. So the only thing I want to show you is there's lots of swaps you can do. For one, I'm running Territorial, which is 10% damage reduction against close. You don't have to take this. I took this because it's a lot more comfortable in Nightmare 100s for sure. With, I mean, 10 damage reduction doesn't sound like a lot, but it adds up. The extra damage does not matter at all. The next one that can be swapped out is going to be Martial. If you find that you don't need this and you don't need the extra armor, that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to get as close to the armor cap as possible. So I threw on Martial because it grants a bonus to magic nodes. If you don't want to use Martial, you can take something like Exploit. Why don't I run Exploit? If you're one-shotting things, does it really matter if you get Exploit onto them? I do have vulnerability from the Construct pet here. Another obviously good option is going to be Brawl if you want even more damage into charge, which isn't a bad idea. If you're speed farming, not 100, but lower level ones, I would probably swap out Brawl and Territorial for sure, giving you more charge damage, faster clear time, and that's really what you want in the end. But the reason why I'm so tanky is because obviously when you're doing tier 98s, 100s, you have to be pretty tanky. The next thing that's really important about this build is there's this section on the Paragon board here, and it's also going to be in the build planner, so definitely check that out. If you don't need cold resistance, get rid of these points. This is very specific to my gear, and you can go ahead and get fire resistance here. It's the same amount of points. I made sure I was decently close, and we have poison resistance here. I went to all of them in this build just to make sure we can hit them with the solid amount of points here, and this is the exact amount you need, so it's a perfect floater amount for a Paragon board. If for some reason you find yourself needing to hit 2 sections of resistance, head down here, get rid of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then you can get rid of health here being 7, and those are going to be all the extra points you can add in. Of course, if I needed more all res, I can take these 2 points here. As you saw before, I am capped out. I can just show it again very quickly. All the resistance are at 70. You need this for sure. And for even more customization, we can head on to the aspects. Now, I want to talk about the Ring of Red Fear. This is, I don't see where it's good anywhere, right? I think a lot of people are confusing this multiplier on the bottom. It's not 26% multiplicative damage, it's 26% multiplicative crit strike damage. So there's a difference for sure. I'm sure everyone can pick that up. So me personally, my crit damage is 121. My overpower damage is 2000. You can kind of see how I wouldn't be getting a lot of damage from a 26x multiplier on crit damage because I have so little. So even though getting 20 Fury can be nice for Hammer of the Ancients because it does scale per point of Fury, the crit rate's too valuable in my opinion. The damage while berserking being all multiplicative in a high amount too. Let's see the berserking amount. Damage while berserking 384. Yeah, so I mean, it's not even that high and it's still over double of what crit strike damage is. And this is where you get your final quality of life swap in here being Bold Chieftain's Loop. If you don't need Bold Chieftain's Loop, if you try it and you figure it's not doing enough for me, swap it out for any aspect you want. If you want more damage, throw on more damage. I have most of the damaging aspects available to me. I don't have Berserk Ripping. I don't have, the only other good one that I can think of is the, let's see if I was lucky enough to drop it here. If not, of course I will find it. We don't have Ground Stomp, so we can't use any Earthquakes. I suppose you could swap in and try to take something like that. But pretty much there is a aspect that every time you use a core skill, it increases the damage of your next charge. That's, from what I found, going to be the highest damaging. I think it's called a Veteran Brawler, actually. It's going to be the highest damaging option. If you don't want to use the Bold Chieftain's Ring, yeah, it is going to be a Veteran Brawler. So as we can see, you're up to a 40x damage multiplier on your charge skill, because we're not leaping in this build. So that's a pretty big multiplier. You're going to hit it pretty quickly, because as you kind of saw from the Hungry Hippo playstyle of spamming Hammer the Ancients over and over again, it's going to stack up. So if you decide you don't need Bold Chieftain's Loop, definitely swap in Veteran Brawler. If you want more Fury instead, we're going to be berserking almost always, right? So another solid option is going to be not echoing Fury. While berserking, you gain 5 Fury per second. We have enough multipliers where that's going to be pretty significant. Or we can, of course, go with the go-to, which is going to be Unrelenting Fury. This is very high value. Lots of players love this. Killing an enemy or hitting a boss with a core skill all the time refunds 29% of its base Fury cost. When your Fury cost is 70 for Hammer the Ancient, 29 or 39%, whatever you can get, or 29 to 30%, whatever rolls you get, is significant, right? It's very significant. You will notice you're casting more often. You don't want to reduce the Fury of your skills because things like Banished Lord Talisman requires you to spend a certain amount of resource. You want to make sure you're min-maxing that. I've seen people take Whirlwind too slow. Like, that's even slower than this slow build, so I do not ever recommend trying Whirlwind Hammer the Ancients. I know some people swear by it. I've watched the gameplay. It would just drive me crazy, slowing down every time to spin Whirlwind every other pack, and the Fury is a non-issue. Since we are using Echoing Fury with 2 shouts, as well as Tybalt's Unstoppables happening all the time, between Wrath of the Berserker, Rallying Cry, and then, of course, Charge. So that's going to be the breakdown of the build. I should have covered everything for the build. If it's not covered, it's going to be in the build planner. If you want to add additional damage reduction, I do use the sword expertise, because again, by the time you're getting vulnerable on the target, it's already dead. That's just the sad way exploit works. You have to hit it first, and if you're hitting things hard enough, I don't know, it is what it is. So that's why I do like sword expertise. It's not much, but we're not doing this for the damage. We're doing this for if you want to add, and even the Paragon is going to have this right here, just free damage reduction. We have 4%. I don't meet the willpower check, so it's just a straight 4 there. 5, 6, 7, 8. So free 8% damage reduction by swapping a technique where none of the other ones really have a big impact. So we take this free damage. The damage over time doesn't matter. We're only on the Hemorrhage tab because we want 70 points for Ire. I know a lot of people like putting Ire in Carnage. Ire in Carnage is never the right play. You want something giving you, I'm getting 18.8% damage while berserking because I have plus 125 bonus to all magic nodes, right? So to not have this for the extra 5, because this, you're allowed to have 75 strength on this board as opposed to 70. 5% is not worth 18.8% while berserking and 8.2% damage reduction while close. It's just not even close. So you take the hit, you pick a 70 board, which is why I picked this one, a little bit of extra damage reduction while bleeding. We will take it. It's like a free gear slot roll, and we didn't have to sacrifice a single thing for it. So let's conclude this build here, the one-shotter. If you have any questions, for sure leave a comment and join my Discord, ask there. If you enjoy this content, smash the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I will see you all in the next upload.